Well, good afternoon. My name is Roger Ryerson. I'm the president and CEO of the Flint Group. The company's got a rich history serving the Fargo area, and been happy to have been part of its growth for the last almost 50 years now. So not me, but the company. On behalf of Fargo-Moorhead West Fargo Chamber of Commerce, I'd like to welcome you and thank you for your willingness to serve on behalf of our community. In the interest of time, we'll be using a timed question and answer format. Note cards and pens have been provided to the audience members, and chamber staff is stationed around the room to collect any of the questions they may have. Candidates will have 2 minutes for an opening statement, 1 minute response to questions, and a 1 minute for your closing remarks. Permanent flood protection has been a top priority for the chamber and many of its members. During your introductory remarks, we ask you to include your position on the FM diversion project as it currently stands. Following the opening remarks, we will take questions from the audience. We start with the opening remarks, and we'll start with Ms. Brust.
To the chamber for hosting today.
Mr. Gehrig?
If you're here today as an undecided voter, or if you're watching on TV as an undecided voter, you want to know what makes us all different. And I'm going to explain to you very easily, very plainly about why I'm the responsible choice for Fargo City Commissioner. Number one, I'm the only candidate who's talking in terms of needs versus wants. There are many needs in the city of Fargo. Expanded water resources, the sewer plant needs a new pump to replace this 80 or 90-year-old pump currently. The fire department asked for a new station in South Fargo. The police department asked for 5 officers last year and they only got 2. We need comprehensive inner-city flood protection, and we need a new landfill within the next 5 years. I believe that if we focus on these needs and resist the urge to raise taxes and spend on the wants, we can actually lower taxes. I'm the only candidate proposing lowering taxes, specifically 20% off your property taxes. That still allows the general fund to grow next year and puts hundreds of dollars back in your pocket that you will spend likely within the community, and that's how we grow our economy. Not only am I the only candidate who wants to lower taxes, I am the only candidate who does not want to raise your taxes. Every other candidate here is in support of the convention center. The convention center is $60 million estimated. We don't currently have $60 million. In order to get $60 million, you have to raise taxes to do that, and the commission has not been shy about saying they will do that. Cost isn't the only issue there with the convention center. It also will compete directly with our neighbors who own businesses who offer similar services. It will never operate within the black and will cost taxpayers year after year. I was the first candidate to bring to the forefront this issue of the city hall costing too much. I talked about a year and a half ago on the Jay Thomas show. I said it'd be a $25 million project when they were saying it was going to be a $12 million project. I was not only right, but I underestimated by $5.4 million. It's not only an issue of cost, it's also land space usage. That property they're going to build within the flood zone, which the commission voted to outlaw 2 years ago. In true do as I say, not as I do fashion. And the private sector could more effectively use that to grow our economy. As far as the diversion goes, I only have 8 seconds. I don't oppose the diversion in theory. However, there are many hurdles. The cost is not $1.8 billion. It's going to be double that. The assessment zones was a huge foul to give the city and the other governments more of a vote than the people, and I'll stop there.
All right. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, all of you. First question for all of you. City leaders and the chamber agree that Fargo is in need of additional convention center space. The question is, where should it go, and how should it be paid for? And we'll start with Mr. Carley.
Respectfully, the first question should be, should we have it? Should it be taxpayer funded? There are other options out there that I've championed. There's a P3 option where we could offer land and a private developer could build this structure if it's feasible. The best option is that private developers are the ones that are put on the hook for this instead of the taxpayer. The reason they haven't done that so far is because they won't make money. The residents of Fargo need to understand this will not make money. No one is saying it will. So we're going to spend $60 million, we're going to raise taxes to do it, and year after year the taxpayers will be on the hook for the operating costs. It might be a net neutral, but that's a $60 million gamble to make nothing. The taxpayers need to be made aware of that. Also, like I said, it's going to compete directly with our neighbors. If you own a downtown convention center, the Avalon or something like that, where you have weddings and events, you are now competing directly with the city of Fargo. The Courts Plus is a great example of this. Courts Plus has put other businesses out of business because it loses $200,000 a year and is in debt $3.2 million. City-owned. It's a city-owned business competing with our neighbors. So I do not think the taxpayer should be put on the hook for it. But if it does get made, I think that the Fargo Dome is probably the best option.
Mr. Schaefer, now I'll start using first names. The low unemployment rate and the lack of available workforce is challenging businesses across the metro. What can the city do to help attract workforce that is necessary for our businesses to grow? And we will start with Tony.
Keeping taxes low, sustainable, predictable helps grow our economy and helps attract people to our area. As a millennial myself, one of the issues that I look forward in staying in Fargo, I could work anywhere. My wife's a lawyer, I'm a pilot. We could go anywhere and do what we do. But we stay here because we love the community and because housing is currently affordable for us. But when you have higher taxes, higher property taxes, which we have the highest from Minneapolis to Montana, when you have high sales taxes, from Minneapolis to Montana, we have the highest sales taxes. These are things that affect people directly. So keeping those things low is what the city government should be doing in order to attract more people. That also empowers the private sector. We can do things like making the entire city of Fargo a Renaissance zone. We've seen in downtown Fargo that if you get the government out of the way, lower taxes for everybody, you see a tremendous amount of growth. Why not do that all over Fargo? Why not give these abatements to every business in the city of Fargo and watch this city boom like you've never seen it boom before? And people will come when they see the jobs that are available. I believe it began with me.
Yes. There's much discussion, some of you have already mentioned it, about City Hall located in downtown Fargo. Most recent bid for the project comes in at over $30 million. Both Mayor Mahoney and candidate Wimmer have stated that they believe the city needs a new City Hall. If elected, how do you plan to work with the current city commissioners to move forward with this project? We'll start with Mr. Strand.
Somebody might think.
Tony.
Like I said in my opening, I've been talking about this for a year and a half now, long before any other candidate got a hold of it. And I'm glad that the other candidates have said things like we have to prioritize the needs over the wants. I think that's very good, and that's exactly what I've been saying for a long time now. You can see the interview that I had with Jay Thomas on my webpage, TonyGehrig.com, where I said that this would get out of control in a hurry. This isn't a debate of whether we need a new city hall or not. This is a debate of how it gets done. And when you have what I call in my op-ed to the Fargo Forum, a Taj Mahal, that's unnecessary. We're building like you said, we're doing our business in this building. It's not a museum. So can it be beautiful? Yes. Can it be in a good location? Yes. But it has to be done responsibly. And building in a floodplain with a $30 million structure that raises the costs and puts it at risk, that's not responsible. You could move the same building that they want and put it behind, say, the Holiday Inn, and it would be half as much. There are many options that I've offered outside of its current footprint that would be fiscally responsible, still beautiful, and still functional, which is the most important thing.
Bradford? Thank you. Thank you all for your timeliness, which leaves us time for a couple questions from the audience today. The first question that I have is, what can the City Commission do to protect all our citizens from discrimination? And we'll start with Scott. Tony?
Just about myself, I'm someone who's pro-individual rights, pro-liberty, and I believe that you should be able to love whoever you want to love, and you have that right, and the government shouldn't have any say about it. Obviously, there should be absolutely no discrimination when it comes to government. Gay, straight, man, woman, black, white, there should be no discrimination, and that should be, and I think it is the law currently. As far as a housing registry, we have to be very careful about laws we pass because laws cost money. We have been talking about how expensive and how the cost of living in Fargo is going up with property values and so forth. When you make these laws, it does cost more to enforce these laws. And to date, we haven't had any documented cases of discrimination for LGBT people in the city of Fargo. Until such time, we need to resist the urge to make laws that make us feel good and make us feel right about the situation, but don't have really any effect on the community other than raising our taxes.
Another question from the audience. Our community continues to grow at its boundaries and in many different areas, and we've heard the term smart growth come up for the city of Fargo as we move forward. How would you define smart growth, and would you support such an idea? Mara? Tony?
When you say things like smart growth, it assumes that government is smarter than the free market. I disagree. The free market will dictate how Fargo grows. And right now, as Cole just alluded to, urban sprawl is something of a myth in the city of Fargo. We are 50% homes and 50% apartments in the city of Fargo. An average city of our size is 60-40, respectively. So I don't think that 5 commissioners sitting in a room saying this is where things should go is a good idea. I think the free market does a great job of that, and you can see how it has helped us grow. Cities like Houston have some of the lowest regulations on property owners, and they are one of the fastest growing cities, and they have some of the lowest properties in the country. So I think it's a great example. Another example is once you get government out of the way in Renaissance zones, lower taxes, you see a boom in our economy, in that local economy. So why not make the entire city of Fargo a Renaissance zone? Every business gets to have that 5-year abatement. Watch the city of Fargo grow when that happens.
On the floor, take a little bit of a turn here. The availability of childcare is a big issue for Fargo families. Yet the Commission has recently enacted new regulations for these providers related to the mandatory daily activity for children. Do you feel that the City Commission should be, or this should be, the city's job or the City Commission's job to mandate these? And we'll start with Mr. Carley. Tony?
I think we're making an assumption that they don't police themselves. If you are a bad child care provider, I had one. I didn't like who I was with before, and we moved because we didn't like what she was doing. When you add more regulations, you add cost. It's very simple. And it happens again and again. You can see it in housing, you can see it in child care, you can see it in business. The city went so far as to regulate how much juice a child can have, and at what age, and at what kind of cup they could have that juice in, and what % that juice had to be. I mean, that's getting a little bit in the weeds, wouldn't you say? You know, if I don't like that my provider is giving my kid juice, then I'll tell them. As a parent, as a responsible adult, and I think the only person up here that has a young child, I talk to my provider every single day when I go and pick my kid up, when I go pick up Jackson. And I ask him how his day was. I ask him how many diapers he went through. I ask him what he ate. And that's the individual responsibility you have. And if individuals take that responsibility, then the government doesn't have to. And like I said, when you add these regulations, you add costs.
Bradford?
I got a 7-year-old, Tony. I'm the oldest conservative with the youngest child. So,
we're going to go to your closing statements now, and we'll start with Scott Wagner. Yeah.
As a candidate for commissioner, I've been a very different voice than what we've had, and I've been the lone voice on a lot of important issues. It's not an easy thing to sit in front of the chamber and ask the question, do we need a convention center, when we know that their position is that they want one. I will encourage economic growth through Fargo through lower taxes, through predictable, sustainable taxes. I will ask the hard questions about how Fargo is spending your money, and I am the only candidate who wants to lower your taxes instead of raise them. I'll refocus the commission on the needs of the city of Fargo and shrug off the urge to raise taxes and spend on the wants. It's going to be a big vote on April 28th, and I hope people get out and vote early as well on April 20th through the 23rd. I hope you guys appreciate that I'm forthright with my positions, that there's no question on where I stand. And if you want to contact me, grab a flyer. My phone number is on there. We can talk anytime. I'm the only candidate who offers my phone number and my personal email address. I love talking to people, and I get a lot of phone calls every week, and it's always an educational experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to each and every one of you for this afternoon. I'd like to say good luck to all of you. I think we have a great crew to choose from. And that concludes the time we have today. I encourage our audience and those listening on television to make sure they vote on April 28th. It's your right as a citizen to choose our next commissioner, and we hope you all show up at the polls. So again, thank you to everyone. Thank you to the audience for being here, and thank you to each and one of you for running for office.